Good evening, everybody. This is Darius Assemi, your host at GVWire Unfiltered podcast. Welcome to another great show this evening, along with Bill McEwen, our news director at GVWire. Good evening, Bill. We we have a great program for you this evening. Two awesome um, guests. Lorenzo Rios, who's a candidate for, is it Congress, President, or is it, is it Senate or House of Representatives, or is it for President?
The House of Representatives,
House of
Congressional District
Representatives.
21.
Okay,
Yes.
Congressional District 21, which is Jim Costa's seat. He'll talk about that here shortly. And also, he's the Chief Executive Officer of Clovis Veterans Memorial District. And he'll tell us all about that. And before that, he was on active duty. He'll tell us how many guns he has or he worked with when he was here or overseas. And on the second half of the show, we have Brooke Ashton, Chief Executive Officer of Seal Right Paving, but he does a lot more than that. Ex-trustee at Fresno Unified School District, very involved in politics, very involved in school bonds, and probably a few other things politically that we don't know about. And we find out later on that he had his fingers in it. But we'll get to Brooke here shortly. But let's quick update on the weather. Today it looks like it's going to be the hottest day of the week. A nice cooling trend, beautiful cooling trend to the high 90s uh, over the next several days. Should California continue to allow sale of fireworks? There's so many fire incidents, fires. Gosh, a lot of stress on firefighters all across California. California is hot and dry in the summer months, and 39% of you said ban private sales. Only approved fireworks should be from the city or organizations that know what they're doing. Along with no ban, keep fireworks altogether. Cities should use drone lights instead. I'm sorry, ban fireworks altogether. So no fireworks and just get drones, drone lighting. How do you view President Trump's handling of matters related to the Epstein files? Overwhelming majority, 80%, I think, including, and it's, in my opinion, Tucker Carlson's viewpoint is that, hey, this was a promise to the American people and by a lot of folks in the Republican Party, including President Trump, and now there is no files. President Macron of France urges the United Kingdom to back Palestine recognition. Ukraine support in landmark visit. Israeli humanitarian city plan in Gaza sparks outcry accusation of creating concentration camps. The over 2 million folks in Gaza that are homeless now being called a concentration camp. Of course, a lot of you've seen all the stories of folks running into aid areas only to get shot and killed by some members of the Israeli forces. Egypt says Israel European Union agreement has not increased aid to Gaza. And Prime Minister Netanyahu under mounting political pressure after the party quits. Great information if you're interested in Israel, Middle East, Gaza, what's happening in that part of the world. And it's really a lot of atrocities are taking place in Gaza. A lot of folks. I mean, here when our kids are sick or they have a major issue, they're gonna have major surgery or major accident. Oh my gosh. I don't have kids, I have four-legged kids, and your world goes upside down. Imagine seeing your kid's brain getting blown away, arms getting mutilated. Forget dogs and personal belongings and your home and your business and whatever. Forget that. The trauma these folks are suffering is just incredible. I just don't know how they're going to recover from the last 18 months. Um, anyhow, really sad. Political activist and author Charlie Kirk, commentator, is Is Israel an ally of the United States? You say Israel is not an ally. That is not an opinion that people hear a lot. So this was Charlie Kirk with Dave Smith, a Jewish American interview. You can take a look at that. That's all over social media from the Turning Point event that was, I believe, that happened over the weekend. And Tucker Carlson, conservative um, podcaster, used to work at Fox, and there's a quote from him at the same conference. I think anybody, by the way, who serves in a foreign military should lose his citizenship immediately. There's a lot of Americans who've served in the IDF, that's Israeli Defense Forces. They should lose their citizenship. You shouldn't be allowed to serve in the government if you're not a U.S. citizen or you're a dual citizen. Tucker Carlson, very vocal, and he's mainly talking about Israeli folks, and as I mean, folks that have served Israeli Defense Forces and are members of Congress. American allies want to redraw the world trade map, minus the United States. It'll be interesting to see where we head over the next few years. And iPhone's now eligible for Starlink satellite texting, which is very cool, courtesy and a deal made with Elon Musk. U.S. National Education Association, the United States teachers cut ties with Anti-Defamation League over definition of anti-Semitism. We were going to actually have what is well, who is a Semite? Who are Semites, by the way? Paul, if you can make a note, next week, we're going to actually put a definition of who's a Semite. Folks from that part of the world, Arabs, Christians, Jews, Muslims. And the question is, who is not a Semite? Folks from Europe are Europeans that have immigrated to that part of the world. Would they be considered Semites? So we're going to actually cover this next week. The White House aide driving Trump's aggressive immigration agenda, Mr. Stephen Miller. Things were going according to plan. He'd set an aggressive quota of 3,000 arrests per day in late May. And the efforts to meet the goal pushed U.S. immigration officers into more communities and businesses, triggering protests and political tensions with Democrats. And then Governor Newsom had an exchange with, at least on social media or on the news, with Mr. Miller, calling him a fascist cuck. What is the definition of a cuck? Comes from a cuckahold. There we go. That's what Mr. Governor Newsom called Mr. Miller. I'll let you guys read it. I put it on. It's on the screen. Okay. California protester pulls mask from ICE agent during San Diego clash. Let me bring in Bill McEwen. Bill, why are ICE agents masked? Is it because they don't want people to, go after them in that community? What do you know why they're masked?
Well, the federal government says that as they do these operations, they're in danger. There's so much backlash against them, and their identities need to be protected.
Got it. Okay. Which brings us to military veteran Lorenzo Rios is running for Congress to challenge Jim Costa in 2026, a Republican challenger to a Democrat, Jim Costa, which is Jim's got to be a 20-year veteran of House of Representatives. So I'm going to bring in Lorenzo. Good evening, Lorenzo, and welcome to the podcast, the Unfiltered podcast. Let me start out of the gate. Immigration reform or immigration and ICE arrests, and it's such a hot topic in our area. Do you believe in comprehensive immigration reform? And by the way, we have let me see, we have a video of President Reagan's farewell speech. Where is that? We're going to post that right after you answer that question. Uh, what are your thoughts on comprehensive immigration reform? So, I mean, hey, there's a lot of folks that said people should not come here illegally. And majority of us, if not all Americans, agree with that. Don't come here illegally. We need to know who you are, a background check. But coming here legally is very complicated. And how do we how do we deal with all the people that are here first? And then what should our immigration uh, rules or laws be? So what is your position on immigration reform? What do you think? Where do you think we should go? And do you support what ICE and President Trump are doing right now?
Well, Darius, thank you for inviting me to your program. And gentlemen, thank you for taking the time to bring this conversation forward. Look, I'm an immigrant to the United States. The immigration discussion strikes very close to my heart. I came to the United States at a very young age. Um, when I came to the United States, English was a second language. I came from Mexico. I became a naturalized citizen. I was a farm worker who grew up in the orchards and learned the value of hard work. My parents were there alongside me, and they provided me the love and support that I needed. And immigration was a reality that we grew up with. I was blessed with the opportunity of going in the Marine Corps that really changed my life. And the Marine Corps sparked a reality that connected me to the values that were what my parents had taught me, which was hard work and sacrifice in this country creates opportunity. And I will tell you that availed an opportunity that opened the door for me to go to school, be introduced to the ROTC program where I was introduced to the Army, got commissioned, served for 23 years, got to teach at West Point. I got to mentor the next generation of leaders. And the reason I think that's so important, and then after the military, serve as a CEO for the last 10 years in a community where working shoulder to shoulder with our veterans and civic minded leaders in helping with scouting and programs that serve our community, we've seen a blessing of just exponentially grow when neighbors help neighbors and our community serves our community. I share that with you because that's an immigrant story, an immigrant story where immigration is a very much important part of it. I believe in the dignity of the conversation. I believe the conversation needs to change where the hyperbolic aspects of it, where one side really doesn't communicate the true story, needs to change. With regards to immigration, I first and foremost thank the support of our law enforcement officers who are out there enforcing the laws. They didn't make the laws, they're enforcing the laws, and they're putting their lives in danger. And I think we need to remember that these are people who are trying to do our bidding, the American public's bidding. And so what I see is a conversation where our elected officials who have not addressed it, that is where the conversation needs to be focused at. Holding our elected officials accountable to having a conversation that creates some options. And what those options are really look forward to seeing what the national debate is and how the House discusses it. But does it need to be addressed? I absolutely agree it needs to be addressed.
So let me
But
ask this, Lorenzo. What would you? How would you want to see? I mean, yeah, it needs to be addressed, but what would you want to see in terms of what should Congress or the House of Representatives do to reform immigration? I mean, this is a debate that's been going on for decades in our country, and I'm going to in about a minute I'm going to play Ronald Reagan's. He has many speeches on immigration. But what should it be? What should it look like? And people that are getting ready to vote are going to go, okay, do we vote for Lorenzo or Jim Costa? And Jim Costa, what is his perspective? By the way, we're going to have him on this podcast as well. And
sure.
what is Lorenzo's view? What should we do? Should we deport all those folks that are here undocumented? What is the number? 10 million? I've heard as high as 40 million. They're going to go on strike, supposedly. What's going to happen to our country if they're all deported? What's the cost of deportation? Do you support the facilities that are going to be built to how to, after ICE picks these people up, whether it's on a construction field, farming, hospitality, house them
Well,
there to what is your thought? And by the way, we have a lot of other things to cover. So in 1 minute or less, what do you think immigration reform, what should it look like?
I think what the president is dealing with right now is a response to what he inherited, first and foremost, and he's addressing that. I think that there are options that are not foreign to this country. We had them before. Something like the Bracero program that creates opportunities, that creates an option where folks who don't want to live here but want to be able to work and be able to traverse our border legally, could have that option. And then where there's a pathway to citizenship, that is a dialogue that can be brought up. But the reality is that we need to create something that is tangible, and it creates answers where there is a legal process that people can follow and that can be articulated, and we understand what that is. And that's what's not existing right now.
So
We're
what would you
working on
do?
the fringe.
So what would you do with the folks that are here? Let's call it the valley. And if you're successful and you win with the district, which is parts of a lot of most of downtown and some of the suburbs, what would you do with folks that are here, undocumented, illegal, whatever you want to call it? What would you do with those folks that are in hospitality and construction and mowing our lawns and picking up fruit and vegetables? What would you do with those folks? Do you support
Well,
deporting them, or do you say we have to figure out a way of, what would you do actually? Let me just ask that question.
first of all, this is not something new. Having the opportunity to go back to the country of origin and be able to apply for a process where they can come back here legally, I think that is what protects the dignity. And where people are being afforded to self-deport and are afforded a stipend upon the return, that's something that we never had before. But yet that would provide an incentive for folks to self-deport
Okay,
and do this safely and legally.
got it. So let me ask you a couple of follow-up questions, and then we're going to move on to a couple of other topics. So the the folks that have been here, and can we take that image off? Just put the two of it, keep the two. There we go. The folks that have been here 10 plus years, 15 years, for some reason they're still undocumented. Matter of fact, some folks have been here, they're 30 years old and they've been here 25 years. What would you do with those folks? And by the way, what would you deport them to? So let's say they came from some city and none of their family members or friends live in that city in El Salvador or Mexico or wherever it is. What would you deport them to? And and maybe would you spend federal dollars in picking them up, housing them temporarily, and then shipping them someplace? They land in an airport. What do you do with that? And then my second part of that question is: there's refugees that have helped U.S. armed forces in Afghanistan that are here trying to get immigration legal status, and that are being shipped back. A lot of these folks helped U.S. forces, snitched on their countrymen, snitched on the Taliban or whoever they are, and going back is basically a death sentence. So the two parts: what would you do with the folks that have been here 20 plus years? And number two, would you support continuing to send refugees back to some of these countries? They're Muslim countries in the Middle East.
The folks who have been here for 20 or plus years, I'll be honest with you, I don't see an excuse. If you enjoy the blessings of this country, you participate in this country, and this is a law of land. This is a land of laws. So applying and getting through the process is important. My parents, who didn't have two pennies to rub together, that was the very first thing they did upon arrival. It was applying and being a part of the process. We had to go back to Mexico to get our visas and come back and now have our green card. That's not uncommon. And the raids, those were taking place when I was growing up. We went into the Kmart and they would block off the Kmart store, and then they would process everybody out. And if you didn't have a green card, you were getting detained. So none of this is new. And that's the first part. Those who have been here for a while and have chosen not to apply and be a part of the process, that's a choice that they made. And those choices have consequences.
So do you
This
think
country affords opportunity.
no, I get that. So do you think folks that are here illegally should go to immigration and say, hey, I've been here illegally X number of years and I want to apply? Would you support getting those folks into a pathway to legalization? And I'm not going to say citizenship, but to some kind of a legal status that eventually leads to permanent residency, and if they want to, they can become citizen.
I support a process that is articulated and is managed, and the people that participate go through that process. And what that process is, I don't know what that looks like, but I do believe that we need to stop pushing for the fringe, and chaos and anarchy is not an option. And punishing those who are enforcing those rules is absolutely abhorrent, and it needs to stop. The folks who are enforcing the laws are doing the bidding of the people. And those who are elected into Congress, who are the representatives of the people, need to do their job in processing laws that create options that represent the will of the people. I trust the will of the people, and that's what I would expect to see.
Got it. And of course, there's a lot of folks that say our laws are broken. We're enforcing laws, but immigration, we need updated immigration reform. By the end of the day, if there's not enough demand in our country for workers that we cannot fill here, then folks are going to come in here. If there was no jobs, all these folks came over, they can't get employed, and they couldn't get public services for free, then why are we coming to the United States?
But we should also not make it so difficult to be able to get a job. My children can't get a job unless they have a certain GPA and get a pass and a permit from the school to allow them to work. But yet we are supposed to condone the behavior where children, undocumented and unaccompanied, that is okay to be out there working. We can't have these dual standards, and we can't exploit that reality. The reality is there's work and there's dignity in work. We got to create more opportunities to see all of our Americans have a job. My children have a hard time finding a job, and that's unacceptable. Our Americans should not be having that difficult time finding a job. And at the same time, have an argument that says we don't have enough employees, so we have to import. Let's make sure that every American has a job, and let's create pathways that allow for folks who want to come and work. Our ag industry needs good, reliable work. And that's why we had systems a while back in the early 30s. Many of the folks in our valley are benefactors of the Bracero program. Why can't we go to something like that creates a pathway, creates dignity in the process to make sure that those who come here are going to be cared for and not abused, and they have the opportunity to go back home and serve and take care of their families? We have to create that, but we've got to stop with casting blame but not getting the work done. I'm saying let's get the work done, and let's get those laws that if they're broken, then how is it that any legislator can go home and say, well, the laws are broken? Well, then what have you done? Let's get the job done.
Council member Miguel Arias was on this show a few weeks ago. He said any member of Congress that does not support comprehensive immigration reform should resign or should be booted out of office, because this is an issue that has been plaguing our country for decades. And now we're going to play the Ronald Reagan video on immigrants. Let's play that.
But anyone from any corner of the earth can come to live in America and become an American. Yes, the torch of Lady Liberty symbolizes our freedom and represents our heritage, the compact with our parents, our grandparents, and our ancestors. It is that lady who gives us our great and special place in the world. For it's the great life force of each generation of new Americans that guarantees that America's triumph shall continue unsurpassed into the next century and beyond. Other countries may seek to compete with us, but in one vital area, as a beacon of freedom and opportunity that draws the people of the world, No country on earth comes close. This, I believe, is one of the most important sources of America's greatness. We lead the world because, unique among nations, we draw our people, our strength, from every country and every corner of the world. And by doing so, we continuously renew and enrich our nation. While other countries cling to the stale past, here in America, we breathe life into dreams, we create the future, and the world follows us into tomorrow. Thanks to each wave of new arrivals to this land of opportunity, we're a nation forever young, forever bursting with energy and new ideas, and always on the cutting edge, always leading the world to the next frontier. This quality is vital to our future as a nation. If we ever close the door to new Americans, our leadership in the world would soon be lost.
Here's the last U.S. president, as far as I can remember, and I know that had the guts to do whatever you want to call it, amnesty. Here's what we got. We got to deal with the folks that are here undocumented. And Congress, I can't remember if it was an executive order or he actually got it through Congress to offer amnesty to the folks, and I don't have the number, millions of folks that were here undocumented or illegally to become naturalized or to have an opportunity for a pathway to permanent residency and citizenship. And he said it beautifully. America is a land of immigrants. U.S. government needs to make legal immigration available to folks that want to come here. Do a background check. None of us want criminals to come here. Do a background check. Go through a quota system. Some years we need more labor. Some years we need more brain power. Some years we need more investors. And it's not that complicated. But there is not enough interest. And of course, there's a lot of political reasons. I've heard so many. One is, well, if a Republican president makes, and a Republican Congress makes immigration reform and creates a pathway to residency for these undocumented folks, let's say it's 15 million that have been vetted. Those 15 million will, if it's a Republican president in Congress that was responsible, those 15 million will register more than likely as Republicans. So Democrats may not want that, and the opposite is true, of course, if it's under a Democrat presidency and Congress. So it doesn't get done. I've also on this program, several folks, other experts and politicians have said it's an opportunity to raise a lot of money. That's why it doesn't quite get done. Okay, let's move on. Any comments on this from? Okay, Lorenzo, you had a comment, and then I want to see if Bill McEwen has any questions or comments on this. Go ahead, Lorenzo.
There is two things, and quite frankly, the fact that I'm an immigrant who's running for Congress breathes life to what Reagan's comments are. This is still the country that benefits from the talent that comes to us. I think we're blessed to have your presence in our country. That this is where, but I think one of the things that you said that was key is there has to be a legal process. That's one. And an executive order is a Band-Aid that, quite frankly, our house, this is a law, this is a land of laws. Let's address the laws and let's give the president something he can sign and put into place that represents what is the will of the people. To kick the can down the road is unacceptable. There's a need, and I think that Reagan's comments still ring true today. That hasn't changed. But this idea of an executive order is not the answer. The answer is holding our electeds accountable to do their job, and to say that the laws are broken is not an answer. It's about getting the laws to represent the will of the people and give the president something that he can sign and put in so that we can actually see this process work. We haven't stopped that process, but that process was hijacked. And quite frankly, that needs to be addressed. And so I would tell you that the comments that the Reagan said and what you just said, a legal process that so that this country can benefit from the talents that come from around the world. Those who believe in America who want to participate in continuing to see this great nation be the greatest nation on earth, we need to have, and there has to be a process that allows them to come in legally and be contributing members of this great nation. I'm a benefactor of that reality. I want to make sure that continues for the next generation and generations to come.
Got it. Thank you. There's a couple other points, but I want to bring it. I want to ask you about Gaza, APAC lobby, Israel, and also, well, there's a lot of questions coming online, coming on our chat box as well. But we want to talk about that, and we want to talk about your position on green energy. But I want to bring Bill McEwen on. Bill, you had a question on all of the above.
Well, first, just a comment, which is, you notice President Reagan's speech there addressing immigration, very conservative president. You didn't hear him describe immigrants as rapists, drug dealers, and criminals. You didn't hear him talking about building a wall around America. Just a huge difference between President Reagan, who wanted to get things done, and President Trump, who might want to get things done, but absolutely has no idea how to do it and can't enact any policy without scapegoating and name calling and attacking people. Total difference in styles. Part of it is the times we live in. That was a period of far more respect. Also want to address this crazy Tucker Carlson idea about dual citizenship. Obviously, Tucker never served in the military. He doesn't know that the children of military families are born all over the world. And some of those countries consider those children born there dual citizens. The other thing I'd bring up, if someone went and volunteered to fight for Ukraine right now, I'd pat him on the back. I'd salute him. He comes back to this country, that person can't run for office. Tucker Carlson, he's like a broken clock. He's right twice a day. That's my comments on that. Finally, I do have a question of the times for Lieutenant Colonel Rios, which is, you're the former interim CEO of Valley PBS. You're well aware of public broadcasting's impact on local communities. If you were sitting in Congress today, how would you vote on rescinding federal funding for not only PBS, but NPR?
PBS as a concept is wonderful. I learned English using PBS, but PBS of today is not the PBS of yesteryear. The PBS that has become the new program has lost its way, and until it finds its way, I would not, in good faith, support it.
Okay, that's a good brief answer. I've got to actually, I'm going to go back to Tucker Carlson for a minute. One of the comments he made at this conference that happened, I don't know if it's still going on, the Turning Point. He said, if you've served, I don't believe he said serving for the United States Armed Forces to defend Ukraine. He said, if you have served in the Israeli Army, Armed Forces, he mentioned IDF by name. He said that should disqualify you to be a citizen of this country or to run for office. So I don't think he asked, he said you have to be, in other words, if you're part of America's armed forces and you're getting deployed different parts of the world, including Ukraine, it's a different story versus actually going and signing up for another country's armed forces. Because where do you draw the line? If you're signing up for Russia's armed forces to go fight Ukrainians, does that where does that fall? So he says if you sign up for any other country's armed forces, you're actually then pledging allegiance. You're going to give up your life for that country, and that should disqualify you as being an American. Something I agree with by and large. I'm an immigrant from Iran, and I gave up my citizenship when I became a U.S. citizen. I'm a citizen of this country. Um, okay, let's move on. Anything on veterans, by the way? One of our hostiles who was on this program is a veteran, and do you have any comments on veterans? Which, by the way, Jim Costa has brought a lot of money in the south part of our city on the veterans facility. I don't know what that giant complex is called. Any comments on that?
But we don't have enough. The what we have in the valley still is not enough. We've got many veterans that still need to be served, and that is a contract with those Americans that cannot be put on second place in some back burner, where some of these programs that take priority that don't actually serve them, like the train to nowhere, that thing is just uh, burning through money, but it's not actually seeing results. Where we could actually see, I would love to see a state of the art facility with a parking structure that accommodates all of the parking needs, where we're not having to make our veterans have to go to different locations to try to come and get their access to care, where we're not having to shuttling them there. That should be the crown jewel. We have some remarkable facilities, and I love the hospitals that we have in there. They're doing remarkable work in caring for outlying areas. I I do not accept the fact that what we've done for our veterans is sufficient. We need to do more, and we can't just pay lip service. We brought $1 million. That's pennies on in the bucket of a scheme of things. We need to see some real money coming in to provide the real support that all of our veterans they've earned and they deserve, and they shouldn't be waiting in line to see what crumbs we give them. We
So
should
what would
give
you
them
do?
the very best.
What would you do for veterans different than what Jim Costa has done?
First of all, let's make sure that the veterans who come in, we should have a hospitality house for those who are coming from long distances. There should be a place for them to be able to be housed while they're getting cares. Their family should not be living in their car or having to find some obscure location while their loved one gets care. We should have like a Ronald McDonald House. I forget the name of the term, but there's a program for that. We should have a premium location right there. We shouldn't be cramming cars into these tiny little spaces for veterans to cram into and fight for the parking spots. We should have a great parking structure that is there. We have them in our other hospitals. We should have that in the premium hospital for our veterans in a valley.
What would you bring them?
Those are the starting point.
What would you find the funds for? Would you cut any other program? Would you raise taxes? How would you fund that?
I would stop funding programs that really have no say in actually providing care, and redirecting them to the actual things that provide them the quality of care that they need.
Okay.
The social programs and social reconstruction ideation that they were supporting before needs to stop. Let's provide medical care to provide medical care, and let's see those actual results take place. That can't continue to be on the back burner, and bringing in $1 million as a success story is not acceptable. We can do better, and we must do better.
One quick question before we move on to our final topic, which is Israel Gaza. What if you were elected? Which committees would you want to serve on? That came also from Haas Tosti, Marine Corps veteran.
Well, I would look at some of the things that I have experience in. I think ag would be one of the areas I'd like to be a part of.
Okay.
I would also like to be in veterans, to make sure I can to articulate and bring resources for our veterans. Also, arms ways. I would like to be in the arms committee, so where we need to have a strong military. Peace through strength is a reality, and we need to have a military second to none.
Would you cut any would you cut any Department of Defense funding that doesn't go to technology, as building tanks or old technology instead of using latest technology? Would you cut any of those programs?
I would explore everything and make sure that what the capabilities our forces need, not only now but into the future, are what they have.
Got it. Okay. Let me last topic before we move on to local sales taxes coming up. How would you solve the Israeli-Palestinian issue? Palestinians in Gaza and West Bank. How would you address this issue that has been going on for, well, since 1948? A lot of folks say nobody wants to live under occupation. It's inhumane to be occupied, to be pushed out of your land, pushed out of your home. And then there's folks that go, hey, that land belongs to Israel. Go, people of Israel, according to, this is the book of Genesis, that basically says, Israelites. But my question is that this government of Israel, is it the Knesset, or is it just Israelites in general? So how would you address this? And do you think Palestinian lives are different and should be treated differently than Israeli lives? And kids, should we treat them differently? So in other words, if one Palestinian kid or 20 of them get killed, about 50 of them are getting killed every day, and probably thousands are starving to death. Should we go, those are just Palestinians? There was, and should we have different, uh, you know, perspective for Palestinians versus Israelis?
I believe in the right of all people to live in peace, security, and dignity across the board. I think all lives matter. Period. Stop. All lives matter. I want the killing to stop. However, we got to remember some of the killing as to why it happens. When the enemy, in this case, when we see terrorists now hiding in front of children, behind children, and using them as a live wall, to be surprised that we see children die should not be a surprise. And abhorrent as it may be, it's a reality of war that they choose to make. The children didn't make it, but those leaders who would represent the Palestinian people have chosen to make those lives a target and a collateral damage that takes place in the defense. It's abhorrent to see bloodshed anywhere, but this needs to be a process that is addressed at the peace tables, and we need to get the sides to come and talk. But rewarding terrorism as a way of moving the political spectrum forward is unacceptable.
So
So
would you,
simply put,
yeah,
all lives matter. And I think this is where American leadership in that region really makes a difference. We
so
can't step back, and we need to show resolve.
so we've had a lot of folks on this program, a lot of news articles written all across the world that says that without United States military support, what is the number? Minimum $4 billion a year. Some years it goes to 10 to 15 billion dollars a year. Without U.S. military support, guns, airplanes, tanks, technology, whatever, Israel would not be able to continue to basically blow up all of Gaza. I mean, all of Gaza has been destroyed.
But why is it that it's been destroyed? It hasn't been because Israel went looking to destroy it. It's because it's been defending itself from annihilation itself. So, you got to remember what the cause is. And so where they choose to throw stones, and it's not stones, it's rockets, and they choose to draw first blood, if you will, we must remember what causes it. Now, look, war is ugly. I'm going to tell you, you don't get to just pick and choose where the bombs blow and to what extent the explosion takes place. War is ugly. It's messy. And quite frankly, I hope I never see it, and I hope we can stop it from around the world altogether. But that comes with strength. And this is where we must actually parcel what's really happening. Death is ugly, and I'd love to see it stop. So let's remember what's causing it.
So I'm going to get to the cause in a minute, but we're cutting into Brooke Ashton's time about local taxes. But here's a couple of final questions. Do you support a two-state independent, or do you say no, it should be just all Israel with two class of citizens, Palestinians that don't have voting rights and Israelis that have voting rights? Would you support a two-state solution or a one-state solution?
I would support a solution that is brought forward by peace talks and what those would look like, I would entertain at that point.
Okay.
But we can't bully somebody into the corner and force an answer. This has to be a genuine response where a peace process is actually brought to fruition.
You
And I
mean
think America's leadership will provide that space.
do you think bullying? You mean bullying the Palestinians or bullying the Israelis?
The Israelis in this part, I see.
Okay, so you think Palestinians would be could be bullying Israelis? Okay, and then
Look what happened in October. I mean, they're the ones who came over and created all this ugly bloodshed that
totally.
has caused all this blood. It was unnecessary.
Let me say
I
this.
think
Yeah,
bringing
you're
that
right.
process back to peace
Let me.
and get the conversation there. That's where it belongs.
You're exactly right. When October 7th or 8th, when I heard what Hamas did, I go, oh my God, what a bunch of idiots. Criminal activity by a group of folks. It's like an ant biting a foot of a elephant, but trying to create some damage. By the way, I was so blown away that the most sophisticated military intelligence in the world did not see that coming. All these people, all these rockets landed. Where's the air defense? I mean, we've given Israel the Iron Dome. What happened to Iron Dome? What happens to air defense? What happens to the intelligence, the military intelligence, which Israel has incredible military intelligence and surveillance. So I was blown away that Israel, that happened to Israel. And I was blown away that Hamas is stupid enough to inflict that kind of a plane. Honestly, I think that why that happened baffles me, and that baffles a lot of folks. Why would somebody do something as stupid and as suicidal as that? Because Israel would retaliate, because nobody would ever want. Now, there are a lot of folks that were against that, were protesting in Israel on October 6th and 5th about their own government and the rights being taken away, and Supreme Court, Israeli Supreme Court being impacted. There's a lot of, by the way, Israelis, Jewish Americans, Jews from all over the world that have spoken up against this genocide against Palestinians. Because obviously, Hamas is a terrorist organization, doesn't have an air force, but they have rockets, probably from Iran, or from whether they homemade them or however they got them. Inflict pain, but also, the other side of it is this didn't start on October 7th, right? Everybody that understands history knows, nobody wants to live under occupation by another government. Nobody.
Let's pray for peace.
And that's started in 1948, right? So, okay. Hostility they did, but it was their excuse for a forever war. I don't know if he's talking about the Israeli side or the Pearl Harbor and 9/11, or the Palestinian side. Let's see. A lot of other comments. Okay. English legal, I'll make calls for your campaign once their time comes. Very impressive command of the issues. Town halls. Hostility is asked, are you going to have town halls?
I look forward to them. I welcome them.
Okay.
I hope the communities host them.
Okay. And then the last slide we're going to let's put slide 24. So that your district is 40% Democrat registration, 28% Republican, and no party preference 22. So there's a pretty uphill battle. However, if it's just Dem versus Republican, you have a 13-point disadvantage. Congressman Valadeo has overcome that. I think he's overcome over 20% disadvantage multiple years. So it's going to be a tough go trying to take out an incumbent. But of course, we'll have Jim Costa on this, and we'll ask him the same questions. U.S. support for that war. Because, by the way, I believe President Trump can pick up the phone and say, you know what, we got to stop. And by the way, where are the Arabs, Muslim Arab countries with all their wealth? Why are they not at the table trying to put pressure on both sides to come to peace? Of course, Palestinians I'm not sure they have a government. They have a West Bank government, whatever it's called, scattered, corrupt. but it's a bunch of folks that have been under pressure, under occupation, and uh, after this, I don't know what happens to them mentally. The trauma that these folks have suffered. Again, we hear firecrackers on 4th of July. We go, oh my gosh, my dog is going to get hurt. I don't want to hear too many fireworks in the neighborhood. They sound like bombs or guns going off. These folks have been dealing with this for decades, not since October 7th, for decades. By the way, one of the folks that has spoken about this is Gideon Levy, journalist for Haaretz of Israel. And it says, imagine you're a 8-year-old and you're sleeping 2 o'clock in the morning. You hear Israeli jets overhead, and you go, am I going to be next? Because one of my friends got his or her home got blown away. You pee in your pants. Then we expect these folks to be normal human beings. I'll leave it at that. Okay. Stay on, Lorenzo. First of all, thank you so much for joining our show. Very insightful information that I'm glad you shared with the audience on where your thoughts are about several key important issues. We didn't get to all of them. Green energy is one. Solar energy is one. But immigration is such an important part because if all, whatever, 15, 20, 30 million people were deported, then this country will stop. Economy will stop. We need immigration reform. I've said it many, many times. I'm going to say it again. We need comprehensive immigration reform. Pathway to residency for the folks that are here. Quick background check. It's going to be difficult to do, but if somebody's been here and has committed a crime, that's going to be easy to pick up. Anyhow, with that, you're welcome to stay on, Lorenzo. Now we're going to bring in Dr. Ashton. You have a doctorate somewhere. I know that. Okay. Brooke, you're involved. You're in the committee that is going to raise or extend our taxes half a cent for every dollar, Fresno County wide. This is an extension, 40 years. I think we've had it so far. Lots of money raised. I don't know what the total dollar is. It's got to be a couple of $1 billion raised. And so many local roads and projects, from resurfacing roads to building 180s, 168, Veterans Boulevard. So many projects would not have been possible. And you're on the committee that is going to basically decide, steering committee that's going to decide how should these dollars get, if we go to a vote and the folks approve this measure, if it's a vote of the citizens, 50% plus one, half a cent goes through. And how should this money get spent? We've talked about congestion relief. You know, is it going to be on congestion relief? Is it going to be on infill development? Is it going to be on bicycle lanes or more buses? Mr. Ashton, you are a master of several different topics, from education to development to politics to bond measures on how to get folks in and out of office. So take it away, Brooke.
Well, you make it sound like I'm running for office and I'm not. So
no, you're not. You're not running. You're just behind several actions.
I'm not running for anything or running from anything. So how about that? So yeah, Measure C. So it's been around since 1986. It's a half a cent. The big debate is this, and if I can boil it down in a nutshell, the big debate is this: is that Darius, you're a successful home builder. Would you add on to your house if the rest of your house was falling apart? That's the question.
Yeah, no.
You don't
fix. Yeah.
You fix, and the hardest and the most expensive thing, and I know that you've got multiple properties, and I've got a few, and the cost of ownership is in maintenance. I know Bill's here online too. I don't know if you can throw him in the 3-pick pictorial here, but
yeah,
he's got rentals and he's got other things. The cost of ownership is maintenance. It's maintenance. And what we've done here in the city and the county is we've foregone maintenance. We build new stuff, but we don't maintain what we have. So Jerry asked me and a couple others to represent City of Fresno on the Measure C committee. Currently, they spend about 22 to, I don't know, 24 cents for every dollar goes to a bus. Goes to a bus. Nobody rides the bus. Nobody's riding the bus. I get calls all the time saying, hey, I see 3 people on the bus. But you ask anybody that you ask the people at the City of Fresno, they go, well, we did 10 million trips last year. Well, you just did 10 million trips and just literally beat the hell out of the roads with nobody on the bus. That's what you did, right? There's not that many riders. I'm not saying get rid of it. I'm saying lower the price in which we're lower the cost of funds in which we're distributing to the buses to maybe, let's just say it's a dime. Let's give them 10 cents and raise the value of the proportionment into roads of maintenance. Anybody that drives these roads knows that it is a absolute nightmare to try to drive and not get pulled over for your DUI because you're dodging potholes. The guy thinks you're drinking. It's that bad. So the what happens? So what happens is you have a committee that say, let's just say it's 18 or 20 people that were appointed by mayors and supervisors and city council. Well, here comes the 12 crazies from Ashley's NGO over there, and you've got
Hold on. Who's Ashley for the
well,
audience?
the old mayor that thinks she's currently the former mayor. Thinks she's the former mayor that thinks she's the present mayor. Okay.
Ashley
you've got-
Swearingen. Okay.
Pardon me.
Ashley Swearingen. Is
That's
that
correct. Then
okay.
you've got the Celadon crowd, the Sandra Celadon crowd, who's running for House Representatives for the state of California, that wanted to burn down the police department. That gal, she has people that so what happens is these two people to get together and they appoint 12 of their like-minded crazy people to get on this committee and weigh out the voting process of how we should spend our dollars. Now, do they have legal authority to say, yeah, this is the way it's going to go? We're voting now, and we think 70% should go to planting trees. No, they don't have that ability. At the end of the day, it's still we give suggestions. It goes through COG, Council of Governments. It goes through the
FCTA, Fresno County Transportation Authority. Yeah.
Whatever they do, nobody knows what they do, but whatever they do, okay. Then it gets to the County Board of Supervisors, and they go, yes, we will put it on the ballot, and we have to get 66 2/3, or they'll go, no, we won't put it on the ballot. Okay, that's what's going to happen. 5 of these supervisors are going to vote to whether you put it to the ballot. I'm going to tell you right now, if you offered free ice cream for 10 years, you're not going to get 66 2/3 to vote for it in this county. No possible way. Nobody can agree on anything in this county, particularly with 66 2/3. But I will tell you that 58% of the people south of Shaw voted for 2022 Measure C, what was on there that didn't pass. Okay, that is the Building Healthy Community crowd down there. Who didn't vote for it was north of Shaw. Why didn't they vote for it? Because of some crazy kook with a cat named Steve Brandow came out and said, don't vote for this thing. They didn't vote for it because North Fresno did not vote for this thing. They didn't come out. They thought it was a tax. They don't realize that either vote to maintain this tax, and nobody likes taxes, but either you vote for it or we need to import more dentists because we're losing teeth when our tires are falling in these potholes. That's the reality of the measure. So what has to happen here? We have to reallocate the percentage of money that needs to go into fixing potholes, fix the damn roads. That ought to be the website that you can go to. It's not yet. Maybe it will be. I'm not suggesting I'll do it. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't. I'm not sure. I know I sunk Measure E when those no good whats decided they were going to fill their own pockets. But I'll tell you that if we can't get to a number, a 75, 85, 90% that's going to fix roads and give the lion's share to the people that are paying for it, then we're going to have a real problem. Because if you've got 550,000 people in Fresno, another 150,000 people in Clovis takes you to 700,000. Let's just say you have another 100,000 people sitting in the unincorporated areas of the city of Fresno, meaning Old Fig and different places, right? Well, now you're at 800,000 people. You only got 1.1 million in the whole county. Why aren't we getting the lion's share? Why are we sending money to Mendota that has 12,500 people? It needs to be equally proportioned per population or miles driven or something. There has to be a formula. But I'll tell you, the equation has to be flipped. And it has to be flipped in the way that we allocate the money for where it goes. Now, that being said, we still have to have money for the interchanges or for the highways or for the freeway interchange. Why? Because we get a twofer. You put up $1, federal government puts up $1. Or you put up $1, county puts up $1, state puts up $1, and the federal government puts up $1. So you get matching funds. So we have to allocate some of that. Now, am I saying, oh my God, oh here's what we got to do. We got to do all roads. No. Go look at what Dwight Kroll did for the city of Clovis in the early 90s, middle 90s, when he had the genius idea. The city planner had the idea, let's build walking trails. Go look at what he did there. It was so successful, city of Fresno copied it. You got to have walking trails. You got to have it. You got to have sidewalks that go to schools and are connected. You got to have trails that you could ride your bike to the hospital. And you got to have curb and gutter in front of, and sidewalks in front of hospitals. I mean, those are necessities of things you got to do. These are common sense ideas. This isn't some crazy thing. But what they want to do is, hey, I want 50% for buses that nobody rides. What road are they going to drive on? Because there's not going to be one left. I want a monorail to Mendota. Good luck. Good luck with that. I want to do the trolley car. Right? I want to do the trolley car downtown. How about we just buy a clown car? Because that's
Wait a
really
minute, wait a minute. The city of Fresno, and I've talked to the mayor on this program, is spending close to $1 million a year on a trolley from Fresno State to downtown. Right now, our taxpayers are paying at the million. I've asked the mayor on this program, what's the benefit of, why are we doing it from Fresno State to downtown? But I can't remember the response he gave.
In Texas, it's $6.50 for a Tesla to take you downtown.
Okay.
Let me tell you something. Kids,
okay.
Let me tell you something. And university students, they don't ride the bus. You know what they do? They Uber.
There we
They
go.
don't ride the bus. They're not riding bikes. Most of them aren't riding bikes. They Uber. It's $7. It's $9. They ride the bus. The bus has a place, but it's a dinosaur, and we've outgrown it. And now we need to figure out how we're going to fix this problem.
Several comments. Becky Wharton says, let's get smaller buses, something that actually I completely support, because as you said, so many buses, except early mornings, from what I understand, Fresno Unified use it. Some of their kids, the students use it to go to school, but by and large, during the day or in the evening, I hardly see anybody on the bus.
I've been accused of riding the small bus, so I'm not against that.
Okay, so here's the question. I believe it was Senate Bill 1. We pay 10 cents more a gallon. Is it 20 cents? I can't remember. 10 to 20 cents.
SB1.
SB1 to repair roads. That money is supposed to go repair potholes. So what about we're paying more taxes for that? And you're suggesting that some of this money or a majority of this money should go to fix potholes. By the way, everybody agrees on pothole repair. All of us have had damaged rims, like you said. People are swerving the road to miss potholes, damage your suspension, and really it's a shame. You come back from some of the European countries where you can actually eat off of their pavement. Now, mind you, you pay $9 a gallon. Yeah, you pay $9.
Right. So here's the problem.
Yeah.
With SB1, they're culture vultures. Gavin Newsom went into SB1 because we weren't smart enough to lockbox it at the ballot box with these ballot box virtuosos, right? They go in and they say, yeah, I want potholes, and my God, I'm going to vote for SB1. We vote for it. They start getting the money. He stole the money. It's not there. He goes, okay, I'm going to take this money and I'm going to move it over here.
So how do we, are you suggesting that we're going to have a comprehensive list that the voters will see that said, my money is going to go, here's the total money raised over, I don't know if it's a 20 or a 30-year proposal. My money is 1.8 billion, whatever it is, going to be raised. And here's how the money is going to get spent. And of course, there's a bunch of stuff that we don't know what we need that's going to get spent. Number one. Number two, and I've said this on this program, and I'm going to start speaking about it more publicly. We need congestion relief. Somebody needs to tell me. We had the head of COG here and the assistant director. What is the future of transportation in our county going to look like? Are we
I
going
can
to
tell
have a
you
ton
what
of
it should look like.
Well,
You
well,
travel, I travel. You
well,
you do the belt loop system. Go to Phoenix.
well, no, no,
101, 202, 303.
so here's the question. We don't, those are going to cost, I don't know, $1 billion to put together. Where's the fourth lane? Where's I want to see a pot of dollars for congestion relief. Well, in my opinion, one of the reasons North Fresno did not vote for the last measure may have had something to do with Steve Brandow, at the time Supervisor Brandow. But we need congestion relief. You live in North Fresno and you want to go to CRMC or the courts or government, 7 o'clock, 7:30 in the morning, it's back-to-back traffic. 5 o'clock or from 5 to about 6 o'clock, back-to-back traffic. I mean, now, you don't design freeways for rush hour traffic, but we don't want to be another LA or San Jose. And if we don't have enough money for congestion relief, I will oppose Measure C aggressively. If we need to have pothole money, I want to take a look at that. Where's our Senate Bill 1? Let's have accountability. Why isn't the county of Fresno joining other counties and talking to the governor and say, hey, where's our money? You borrowed money to put it on this program. We weren't smart enough to lockbox it. We need that money back. Why aren't we doing that? And also, where is the portion on congestion?
Because it's real simple. The Valley is the stepchild of the state of California. Why do you think they built high-speed rail here? Why do you think that? I can tell you why I think. Because when they don't finish it, who cares? So you got some cement pillars out there. It's only Fresno. They wouldn't have pulled that crap in San Francisco or LA. They're going to leave us with some dinosaurs sitting out there. You watch. That's what's going to happen. But to answer your question, the relief is very simple. Go to these major cities. You do 101 and you loop the city. And then when the city grows again, you do 202 and you do an outer loop around the city. That's how you're supposed to do it. But you need representatives to Lieutenant Colonel Rios's point. We need representatives that bring home money. Jim Costa's been there 20 years this year. Where's the money? Go look at Bakersfield, what McCarthy did. Drive through Bakersfield. Go look at the freeway system that's happening there. That's all federal dollars coming through.
Of course, it's not a fair comparison because the head of the Appropriations Committee it happened before McCarthy. It was I can't think of his name.
It was Bill
Thomas.
Bill Thomas. He
There you
got
go.
close to $1 billion.
Yeah.
He was head of appropriations, and this was back, 20 years ago. And yeah, but Bakersfield's got freeways all over the place, going into the middle of nowhere, into the Mojave Desert, etc. By the way, Fresno does have a loop system. I brought this up to every mayor. The missing link is Grantland and Veterans Boulevard. And Veterans Boulevard didn't get finished, only got built to Shaw Avenue. Needs to get extended to Grantland. Grantland needs to go all the way down to 180. And then 180 and 168 basically create this circular ring that you've talked about, except City of Fresno, where is the funds? Go get the funds.
Well, they want you to build it because you've got property out there. They want you to build it.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Yeah, it's
I mean,
gonna
that's
get built
stupid.
5-10 years from now. Why?
Yeah.
Why?
No, I
why?
get
But the mayor got $100 million for downtown or Chinatown. Not saying don't get that. The
Well,
return
yeah,
on
here's the
investment.
problem. Here's the problem. Yeah, you need to say that. Yeah, you need to say that because now you're saying, well, I don't want to say that because I don't want to make them mad. Hey, listen, we don't need that. We need this. We might get to that later, but right now we need a loop system if we're going to grow.
Well,
And that's really the choices that we
You
have.
should be
And
talking
so-
to the mayor. You should be talking to the mayor.
I
saying,
am
why
talking to
are
him. He's not going to listen to me. He's too busy kissing babies. What do you want me to do? I mean, and
Yes.
let me just say this. I mean, we've talked enough about this Measure C, and we know what needs to be done. You got to balance it out. And what do you want? and where do you want it, right? But let me just say this: we talked on you touched on Gaza just a little bit, and you talked about this terrible tragedy of war, whether it's Ukraine, whether it's Israel fighting Gaza, whatever. But with Israel, you go, well, it goes back to 1948. It doesn't go back to 1948. This goes back 4,000 years. 4,000 years. Abraham had two sons, Isaac, Ishmael. Ishmael was the firstborn. He was supposed to get the land. And he switched it up and gave it to Isaac. Isaac had a son named Jacob. Jacob's name gets changed to Israel, the 12 tribes of Israel. That's how they got the land, right? Now, take it forward through the decades and hundreds of years and centuries. Yeah, there's been geopolitical problems. There was the 1947 war. There was the 6-Day War in 1967. It's terrible. It's ungodly. It's terrible. The blood, the children, the whole thing. If you're a biblical person, you know there will be no peace there until Jesus comes. Say what you want to say, but that is the problem. I don't care if you're Trump. I don't care if you're the Pope. I don't care if you're Darius. Nobody's solving that problem because everybody feels wronged. And it's sad. And children and people are suffering. And it's god awful.
So let me ask you this question to wrap things up, because we're already over by 12 minutes. How do we deal with Indian Americans that the or the colonizers to begin with came here? They used to live on this land, right? How do we deal with that? How do we justify that? Now, Indians were not called out in the Bible, but I'm sure they go, hey, we were here first. We've been living on this land for I don't know how many years, centuries, thousands of years, and we got killed. We got booted out. We were the indigenous people here. And by the way, Semites. There's folks that have lived in that part of the world for decades.
Right. Here's the short and quick of it all, is that war is ugly, and nothing we have on this earth we own. We own nothing. We are merely just renters on land. And if you don't believe that, then you're foolish, because you're Persian. Look how big the Persian Empire was at one time. You guys conquered most of the world, right? They could be saying the same thing about you. Look at the Roman Empire. Look at all these different people. War is ugly. And unfortunately, when people take property and they do it that way, that's the way it is. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. And
there's a lot of money in war.
Darius, there's so much money in this war. And let me leave you with this last thought. And maybe the Lieutenant Colonel can understand what I'm trying to say here. We didn't give all that money to Ukraine. You know what we gave them? We gave them all the bombs and all the rockets that were sitting in the warehouse that were 8 years old that Trump didn't use because he didn't go to war for 4 years, and they're sitting on this shelf and they're getting an expiration date, okay? He shipped those, and then he fired up the military arm and said, now replace them. That's where the money went. So let's not fool ourselves exactly what's happening here. And let me just say this last thing, particularly for, I mean, I don't know if he's our future congressman. I wish him well. We wear the same, we vote the same way. But I'll tell you something. Honestly, you're going to vote the way they tell you to vote. Because why? You're in a tight district. And you go the wrong way, they're not giving you no money. And it takes people that have a lot of steel in their spine or intestinal fortitude to go, I'm not doing that. And guess what? You might not win the re-election.
With that, let me add something to what Brooke brought up. Lorenzo, have you been contacted yet by the American Israeli Public Affairs Committee? AIPAC? No. Okay. Which gives money to members of Congress every year. Okay. With that, we're going to get 1 minute closing comments. We'll start with Lorenzo. Brooke, if you have anything else, we go to you, and then Bill, and I'll wrap up. Lorenzo?
Well, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to hear my perspective. I look to serve the entire 21st District. I am not a politician. I'm a person who has served my life, and I stand by my deeds, and I continue to serve. I understand the challenges of our community. I've lived them, and I look forward to serving them. I am the benefactor of this great nation. I want this for future generations. And I look forward to the support of those who want to join me in making sure that we get real results, not more promises, but action that actually serves the people of the 21st District, the Central Valley.
Thank you, Lorenzo. Brooke?
Well, I appreciate Lorenzo saying that, and I will tell you that unless you have a plan of, if you've been here 10 years, you get amnesty. You're going to pay a fine. You broke the law. You're going to pay a fine. You haven't been in trouble. We're gonna move you to the front of the bus. Unless there's a plan, then all I'm hearing is just what I'm hearing, right? It's just all this noise. I hope the best for you, but I can tell you that the American people, that the people of this valley have had enough of people going to office so that they can put that on their resume and go eat chicken dinners, and we're paying for it. Because the next thing you're going to be doing once you win is making stock trades that I can't. And so, unless you have a plan, I don't know where I can stand with that deal. I'm not thrilled with Jim Costa either. I don't want to mince words here, but going back to Measure C, that if we don't fix roads, I'm with you, Darius. I'm out, and I'll fight it. But we're going to fix roads.
Okay. We'll see. Let's see how much congestion relief is in there. Bill McEwen.
So just my final observation, anything you say about Measure C at this point is merely calisthenics. Still a long ways to go on this. I don't believe that voters will be voting on something that needs 2/3 passage, as we've seen over the last 10 years. Petition signature gathering is the way to go. That puts you with a chance to get something done at 50% plus one. So I don't think it really matters what, the Board of Supervisors decides. And I'm just not sure about if there are competing measures on there. I'd like to believe that the angels will prevail. Everybody will give in a little bit. We'll get something up out there that will get 50% plus one, something that will move the valley forward. But again, as I say, right now, it's all calisthenics. Also want to thank Lorenzo for coming on, and didn't get to all my questions, but we'll have a chance to ask more in the future. Thank you again.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Lorenzo, for joining us. Brooke Ashton, thank you for your thoughts and sharing your perspective and the work you're doing on Measure C and transportation. Let me say this. Let me back up actually. People are tired of government not solving problems, whether it's local government, county, state, federal. We need problem solvers. We don't need problem makers to create problems. We need problem solvers, whether it's immigration, what ICE is doing, how to address that. There's several comments that, hey, the businesses should be punished that are hiring these folks. Well, yeah, they're breaking the law too, but fix the damn problem, Congress. Fix the problem. And politicians go to Congress, problem doesn't get solved. Same thing is happening to Gaza and Israel. Fix the damn problem in the Middle East. I'm beginning to think, U.S. government thinks there's so much money in war. Who's profiting from those things? I mean, there's so much turmoil in that part of the world, and we as the policemen of the world, with the largest economy, the strongest military force, at least today, can be a policeman and say there's more money in prosperity and economic opportunities in that part of the world, all over the world, really. And war is terrible. So now, instead of sending U.S. troops, because that's the easiest way to get out of office, we send drones and laser-guided missiles. But how do we bring peace to the citizens of this world? At the end of the day, we are all children of the same God. When we're born, we want the same things. We get indoctrinated differently because of all the things that has happened, that society has done to us. But we need problem solvers to get, whether it's city council or state representatives. We need brainy problem solvers that are not hung up on their egos, that are not just writing coattails, whether it's their name or whether it's because they teamed up with a particular special interest group, and they go out. So long as I bid and do the work of this special interest group, they're going to continue to fund my campaign, and I'm going to continue to be off office and exercise some authority and feel good and say I was a congressman or assembly member or a state senator or council member or whatever it may be. Majority of folks in our country are sick and tired of that, and they're speaking up, and they're seeing what's happening in in Congress, seeing what's happening in Gaza with Israel, with Epstein's file, and also locally. People, I mean, look at what's going on with Mamdani in New York City. I don't agree with some of his policies. If you want to have better rent, lower rents, increase the supply. But this guy came out of nowhere, and his style, the way he's talking about injustices that are occurring, whether it's New York City or Gaza. One of his latest posts, he said, "Hey, I got a question for pro-Israeli people. What does Israel have against providing baby formula to the people of Gaza? Why are we blocking that?" It's a great question. I asked all my Christian friends. Why are we allowing that? I mean, we give Israel a lot of military support. Anyhow, those are my thoughts. And I'm just really concerned that so many folks are getting radicalized in the Middle East because of the actions against the Palestinians. By the way, Al Jazeera and most Middle Eastern stations and European stations, news stations, show a different version of that news than what Americans see. We see a different version. So I'm hoping that Lorenzo sees the world from all perspectives if he wants to be in U.S. Congress, allocating U.S. funds for foreign countries. Lots of them, all over, from Japan to South Korea to all the bases we have in the Persian Gulf. I mean, I don't know how much money we spend, which is another issue on its own. We'll probably discuss that in one of upcoming, maybe right before the election of 2026. But we need to address immigration reform. We need folks in office that address immigration reform, our foreign policy that can help bring peace and stability to this world we live in. On that note, thank you, Brooke. Thank you, Lorenzo and Bill McEwen. Hope to see all of you soon. Have a great week, everybody. See you next week.